This is the second time we are running this session, Me versus AI, under the Deep Learning by and AI series of events. Me versus AI, it's a monthly event targeting the data science community to highlight the trending possibilities and problems that face this sector. We are not promising to find a solution, but we are sure that we will be inspire the community to find this solution. And we are not promising a learning sessions, but we are sure also that the awareness level toward the AI sector, it will be better according to your cooperation and your comments. Today is the second session from Me versus AI, and I will be honored to introduce first our guest today. We have John Thomson. And welcome, John.
Thank you, Ghaith. How are you today?
Thank you. John, in fact, he is international technology executive over than 30 years of experience in business intelligence and advanced analytics field. Currently, John is responsible for global advanced analytics and artificial intelligence team and efforts at CSL. Prior to CSL, John was executive partner at Gartner, and he was the management consultant to market leading companies in the areas of digital transformation. Before Gartner, John also was responsible for the advanced analytics business unit of Dell Software Group. John is the author of the new book, and this is also why he is today with us, because it's direct connection to our agenda, to the new book, Analytics Team, Leveraging Analytics and Artificial Intelligence for Business Improvement. The book was published on June 2, 2020 and outlined how to hire and manage high performance advanced analytics teams. So the book is online right now. It's the book outline how to engage with executive and senior managers and select, undertake analytics projects and change and improve how the business operates. John is co-author of the bestseller book Analytics, How to Win with Intelligence, which is debuted on Amazon as the first new book in analytics in 2017. And by the way, I have a long paragraph prepared for John, so I will keep it right now until here. Welcome, John, and thank you for joining us. And also we have, thank you. Also we have, as usual, our, in fact, he is not a guest. He is one of the counsel of this Me versus AI, Thom Ives. Welcome, Thom, and thank you also for joining us. I don't know if what's the time right now in USA. Here in Dubai, we are 10 p.m. So after finishing this session, I will go to sleep immediately. So, okay. I will start our agenda today. Before starting with the topic, I will share my screen to show one paper. It's here. Sorry. Okay. This is one of the things that I'm really interested about it. And I like to find how this will be useful in the future to the humanity and to the community, to the data science. This paper is here. It's showing how to fine-tune neural networks for 3D medical imaging segmentation. What they are trying to do here, in fact, they are starting from the unit, the famous unit architect, and then they are running kind of genetic algorithm or evolutionary algorithm. It's not typical genetic algorithm to fine-tune the hyperparameters of this architect. In fact, I'm not going to speak a lot about the technical part of it, but this is, in fact, this is the algorithm that they are using. What they found that it takes a lot of time for them to train this model, almost 5 days, and at the end they reach the result of increasing the accuracy of the neural network itself with 1%. This is maybe some people find that this is disappointing, but the idea itself, it's very unique that you are able to find or to create algorithm that will generate another algorithms for you. For sure, they are right now focusing on specific sector, For this paper, they are focusing on 3D imaging segmentation. So this is part of the automated ML, and it's not the usual automated ML that you are able to just, let's say, run a lot of training for multiple trainers and then choose which is the best. No, here we are creating somehow we are creating a new method, new algorithms, and try to evaluate. Now, technically, I found that they make one mistake, that they are trying to use the same evaluation method for any model that we are going to use, the same matrices, that accuracy, sensitivity, specificity. Okay, which is valid, but at the end, when you are running algorithm and then we are waiting to generate a new structure, and then this new structure has to be trained again and then to evaluate it, I think it will be a long story. We have to find this is, let's say, my intuition. We have to find a way to make this evaluation faster. So here's my question to our guests who want to start no issues. What you find, what's your opinion about this technology or this field of automated ML? I will start with
We,
Tom.
yeah, can we have a little, did you say John or Tom?
Go ahead,
Tom.
Thom. Go ahead.
No, thank you. I'm just curious. I did something sort of related to this in the past, and but not with medical imagery. We were in the dark ages of neural networks when I was trying it. But what is the architecture they're trying? Or are they just automatically growing the layers and number of neurons in each layer with each pass, or
No,
are they
I
doing
think they are.
something more sophisticated?
No, no, it's not more sophisticated. It's something like this. In fact, they are trying to, let's say, determine the filters, since it's working with kind of CNN, the filter size, the filter dimensions, and then the numbers of neurons in each layer. And then what is, there is no fully connected at the end. Maybe also they are not playing with the fully connected layers that much. So they choose a set of hyperparameter to tune it, and then they are trying to run it. The good point here, technically, that they are trying to transfer learning from one level to another. That means when they generate a new structure, they use the parameters trained already on the other structure. So this is make it a little bit faster to find a solution. So in general, this is their idea.
Now, I can just say that I had a professor when I was taking neural networks in graduate school. He really pushed us, and but we gained a lot from it. And I was using C back then, not Python, so all the memory allocation and stuff. But I created a technique like this. I didn't really think it was that big a deal. My professor really liked it, but it's just a spirit of, hey, let's start with a stupid, simple, not adequate um, neural network, but based on how poorly it trains or not, let's grow in a sequence between number of layers, number of neurons in each layer. And I was quite pleased with how successful it was. However, I can see where what concerns me with this is just one thing. Um, I don't know specifically what they're trying to classify in their work with the medical imagery, but I would assume they would want to do some of this auto growth uh, validation, advancing the topology with a convolutional neural network, just because the memory savings, the ability to train those convolution layers to extract the features is so helpful. That's just my initial reaction, though.
And it does seem, I mean, just my initial reaction as well, is it seems 5 days is a long time to be training
Exactly.
that. I mean, I don't know if they're running it on a x86 888 CPU from the 80s, but 5 days is a long time on any kind of substantial server architecture. So I think, Thom, I think you might have put your finger on it. They might be using just a bog standard neural network, maybe not even a a recurrent or a convolutional neural net. I'm not really sure.
Oh,
The one thing I was, you were talking a little bit about transfer learning, Ghaith. I've heard, but I haven't really understood it too well, just recently, called imitation learning. I don't know if you've heard of that, Thom. I just heard the term last week, and I thought, okay, well, I understand transfer learning pretty well, but imitation learning, that's a new one to me. So I don't know. I'm going to have to learn more about that and see if there's something that could be applied here.
I've only seen imitation learning applied to reinforced learning, which I thought was amazingly brilliant. But Ghaith is highlighting a part of the paper here where it seems like they are using convolution. So, but they're doing, and I don't even understand why they would differentiate. I'm not saying they don't have a good reason for it, but I'm confused why they would call it 3D convolution. Is it because they're using color? I that's the only reason I can imagine, but I would
No,
think
the
that
3D, sorry, Tom. The 3D combination here, it's not about the 3D and it's not about the color. I think it's about the time because they are using it for example, for CT scan or MRI images, and then they have slices. So it will be, they are using it to make this segmentation over the time to keep the full shape that they are following. For the
very
mask.
good. Oh, that's great
I
to
think
hear.
this
That makes more
3D is for
sense.
it, exactly.
No,
So,
this
in fact, I have also one comment about this. It's the idea. It's from software, let's say, software point of view. When you have a model, it's always a problem for us as a software team, for example, that this model it will play a role in one point of the full system that you are trying to make. How to for example, after retraining, how to deploy this model that you find it, for example, you find the model better, and then you want to replace it with another model. How to deploy this, and if you have, for example, if you are using a distributed system on multiple servers, and how to go and support this in every server. This is a good part of it, because using this method, you can also automate the other deployment and publishing method for it. And even if you are running the scaling for microservice architects, it will be a part of this machine, all of this together, working together. The full synergy, it will work better if we have a better result on this point. That means when the idea of it, we will reach a point one day, I hope, that we are running a system that's able to enhance our supervised learning models continuously without a human interaction or in less a human interaction, let's say. This is the value that I found it as a software engineer because this is my background. So I hope this is also, I am also trying to do something similar to that, but it's for recurrent neural networks, for RNN. So I hope also I will reach to a good point someday. I will go right now to the Workera. And since our topic today, it's how to build a data science team and how to manage a data science project, I found a good entrance for this topic is to highlight this trial from Workera. Workera is one company from deep learning.ai companies. And the idea of Workera is to bridge the gap between the companies and the hiring teams with the data scientists or the, let's say, with all the workers in AI, all the machine learning engineers, deep learning engineers. But they are trying to do it on a better way. How they think about it? First, I will think from the point of view of the candidate, let's say, the candidate point of view, not the company point of view. For the candidate, when he starts joining the Workera, he found that there is 7 sectors he has to make a test for. And the test, believe me, it's not easy test. It's nice. And it's covering, for example, if we are talking about machine learning, it's covering most of the points related or most of the topics related to machine learning. And you have for each test 3 trials. After that, you will get the evaluation. And your evaluation, it will tell you what is your level on the machine learning. The same for the deep learning, the same for the data science, for algorithmic coding. And the best one is the algorithmic coding because you really need to write your code there. And the same also for the software engineering in general. Now, after finishing this test, you will get your evaluation in each and every one, and you'll get here in the feedback. Now, here is our point. According to the feedback, they will tell you what is the best tool for you. And here is my point, John, especially for John. they have these rules to tell us about it. They are talking about deep learning engineer, machine learning engineer, software engineer, deep learning, data scientist, software engineer, machine learning, data analyst, and software engineer. So according to the 7 tests that we are going as a candidates, we are going to do it. We can find our place on one of these areas, one of these tools. And according to that, they also, the good thing that if you are really accomplished on all the sectors, you are able to get a certificate immediately from Workera. Immediately you can get your certificate. Now the second point, which is also good, it's they are creating a learning plan for the candidate. So according to the test, they are able to tell you that you are good on this point and you need improvement on other points. And for each point you need improvement on it, you can find some videos, articles, or some courses. It's not only Coursera courses or deep learning AI courses. No, they are open to provide the material that any material is valid for them, that they are able to let's say to show it without any copyrights or something. They are going to do it. So it's good step, I found it from my point of view. But my question, it's this is a lot of rules for data science team. So how to map these rules to the traditional rules that we can find it on each and every university. For example, I had specialization with the Johns Hopkins University. By the way, this paper is from Johns Hopkins University also, the one that I mentioned before for the automated machine learning. So according to that, they are telling us that we have 4 rules for each data science team, which is data scientist, data engineer, business analyst, and the project manager or the executive of data science. So, but here we have a lot of other rules. So do we have a standard where we have to go when, let's say I'm thinking as a hiring manager and I don't have clear experience, for example, about these rules, what I'm going to, how to create, let's, for example, organization plan for my company, what I have to do to get this information in correct way. I will stop my sharing right now and then let you tell us where to go for this. John.
Well, that's a wide open invitation right there. Thank you, Ray. In my recent book, Building Analytics Teams, I talk about 2 different ways to build an advanced analytics team. One is the artisanal approach, the other is the modular approach. And the artisanal approach is where you hire a smaller number of people, but those people take on all the roles. They handle data acquisition, data integration, feature engineering, modeling, subject matter expert interface, and interfacing with the IT team to put models and applications into production. So that's generally the way I think of the roles in a data science team or an advanced analytics team. And I have an artisanal team right now. So I have a small number of people and they handle all those roles together. The other way to do it is you hire small groups of people to handle each of those features: data acquisition, data integration, feature engineering, modeling, and so on. So there are a couple different ways to do it. And the way I think of the roles, looking at the Workera platform, there's a fair amount of differentiation going on in the back half of the process. Data machine learning engineer, software machine learning engineer, things like that. It doesn't really look at the entire pipeline, at least the way I look at the pipeline of data science. So, Thom, your views?
No, I agree. It seems like a lot of material focuses on 20% or less of what we actually do in most data science roles. Invented a new pithy saying, the data must flow. That really is just a funner way to talk about ETL and all that process of getting data ready for predictive analytics. Well, at least 80%. I think more data scientists are starting to confess, oh no, it's more like 95% of the work that we do is not the modeling work. The modeling work has actually been made pretty easily. And it's not to say that just anyone can do it. I don't think we're saying that. We're just saying that all the pre-work that has to be done, the coding, the getting everything right, automating the flow of the data, automating the cleaning of it, the feature engineering, the feature reduction. There's so much to it, that there seems to be very little focus on that. But on the other side, I realize, well, where do you learn all that? Being on the job, being really good at your primary coding language, fighting a lot of data, becoming friends with it is a process. And I don't know how you would teach it in school. Sometimes people badmouth Kaggle or other competition platforms. Please don't do that. The data's not always clean in those competitions. It's not exactly real world, but no competition or no textbook can prepare you for the data problems you're going to encounter at the company that you work at next. It's going to be a whole new set of problems. It's just getting good at learning to dive in, become friends or enemies with the data very quickly, whip it into submission or become friends with it, whatever you want to call it. But it's going to change a little bit every time. You just have to get good at embracing that process and making the data flow.
Yeah, one of the things that I couldn't agree more. We certainly see that a lot. I often have the younger data scientists come to me 6 months, 9 months after they join the team, and that, you can see they're a little riled up, a little frustrated, and they say, well, all I'm doing is data cleaning and data integration. I'm not really doing any modeling. And I said, well, that's 90% of your job. You have to get good at handling the data, integrating the data, managing the data. Now, one of the things that we're currently doing in our team at CSL, as I said, we have an artisanal team. So everybody's doing everything. So now we're actually going to have the artisanal team doing the feature engineering and the modeling and the integration into production. And we're hiring a modular team to go underneath it to handle a lot of the data acquisition, data cleaning, integration, and beginning of feature engineering. So we're seeing more and more data sources come in because, in my opinion, CSL Behring is the third largest biopharmaceutical company in the world. We have lots and lots of data inside on manufacturing and supply chain and things like that. But we don't have enough data to give us the external view of our donors, our patients, and the different things that are going on in the world, like unemployment and COVID hotspots and things like that. So the amount of data that we're using from an external perspective is exploding. And it just makes what Thom said even more important, is that, you want to get the data from your internal systems. That's generally pretty clean. It's pretty good stuff. But then you want to buy more data. You want to bring that in, and you want to build an ensemble of data, around each problem that you're working on, which makes integrating it and working with it even more challenging.
I think there's something I want to add it here. Since I work also in the healthcare sector for a long time, here in the Middle East, I'm talking about the Middle East, I'm unable to trust the data even if it's coming from official resources. So, for example, for the medical information, I'm unable to trust it because even until now, until COVID started, I discovered that all the insurance companies, all the service providers, the hospitals or clinics, they are focusing to have clean data on the financial part. But the medical part, it's not that much clean, that they are trying to bend the medical reality to get the financial part clean and sufficient enough for them, all of them. So one of the problems that I faced during my life, that we have one project related to patient level costing, something like this, that we have to make some analytics to the claim data to find that which procedure is costing higher for the hospital. And at the end, this project is stopped because we are unable to make the correct data cleansing with the company that provides us the solution, and also for some other politics there. So back to the 95%, I agree with the 95%, not 80%. But I have, for example, another question. For Workera right now, they are differentiating between machine learning engineer and deep learning engineer. And in fact, I'm unable to find not the difference but I'm unable to find why one person is able to be deep learning, the machine learning engineer, but he's unable to be deep learning. I need more focus on this.
I don't know. I saw that terminology myself, and I thought, I don't know what the difference is between these two. Those terms are overwrought and overused and defined by so many different people. It's impossible to tell what they mean there unless you get down into it and look at what they're asking, the questions that they're asking you to answer, and the skills that they're trying to examine, which I don't have that level of detail. I don't know about you, Thom.
No, the way I typically explain questions like this is we're going to have to be patient for a while. Our field is exploding. There's new techniques arriving every day. The terminology is muddy. I find that if I'm giving more of a technical presentation, I have to lead off with, let me give you my glossary of terms. For me, deep learning is just neural nets that have gotten bigger and require a lot more hardware and a lot more data. Any machine learning engineer that's done a good set of studies and practice, to me, they're a deep learning engineer too. You know, I'm not sure the question's been posed, but it seems like it's posed between the lines. And I just want to say this, Workera, other groups like them that are trying to help improve this space of matching candidates with employers, my hat is off to you. This is a hard thing to do. But if I were looking to add someone to my team, I'd look for someone that's demonstrating contribution to the community through really good, clean code, and is demonstrating a passion of sharing what they're learning, making it clearer to others. Because I don't need someone that can prove they've been through all the coursework. I need someone that can prove to me, I am prepared to learn the next new thing that comes up on the horizon. I am prepared to review that thing I haven't used for 3 years because we need it now. I'm going to need to go do some review. Someone that is not afraid to dive in, learn new, review. That's the kind of people we need in these lead roles personally.
Yeah,
So,
we just hired someone on our team, and we talked about it. You know, we hadn't hired anybody in a year, and we had someone leave, so we had an opening, and people were asking, what are we looking for? You know, what do we want on our team? And I said, we're screening for curiosity, intelligence, and integrity. Those are the three things we're looking for. And, you know, of course, we took them through all the technical tests, and we had them take Python tests and R tests and SQL tests and talk to behavioral, you know, go through behavioral interviews and all that kind of stuff. But those are the three tenets we were looking for, you know, because in our group, everybody reviews everybody's projects, and everybody can be working with anybody on any project. And if there's someone on the team that is retentive with their code, or not interested in being collaborative with the youngest to the most senior people on the team, that's a problem.
I have two questions, one for John, one for Thom. In fact, it's just come to my mind. The first one, Thom, what is the clean code? Because this question, because me myself, each time I'm trying to make clean code, and at the end, I found my code is not clean. Always, I need to make it better. So, what is the clean code as identification, if we are able to identify it?
This is a really important question, I feel. So first I will defer to the emperor of coding, Linus Torvalds. And he said it really well. Learn to write beautiful code. The next, if not the emperor, at least a very high king, Mark Hammond, the old guy around Python in the Python community. I just love to watch him code on YouTube. He's the one guy that's not afraid to code right in front of a conference audience. And I learn a lot from watching these guys and thinking about what they're saying. But I remember that great feeling I had when I looked back at code I'd done 2 years ago and went, whoa, that looks smart. And I went, I couldn't always say that, but I also have this little angel on my shoulder constantly. It's called Pep 8. I leave a live Pep 8 thing yelling at me in the background while I'm coding so that I'm always writing PEP 8 compliant code now. And beyond that, long variable names, so I understand what I'm doing. If I have to shorten the variable names, there's a comment right next to it saying, this acronym stands for this. And that way, if I have to look at it 6 months to 5 years later, I can figure out what I was doing. When someone doesn't code that way and I have to leverage from their code, that is a living hell for me, to try to use someone else's code that didn't code that way. So I hope that gives at least the tip of an iceberg explanation of what it means to code beautifully and cleanly.
Yes, exactly. And here's my comment about this. In fact, I face some people in my life that they are able to be, they have internal compiler on their mind. Whatever the code and whatever the way that you write the code, they are able to discover it and understand it. But this is not a lot of people. I can find that maybe there is one or two in my career that I found somebody like this. But in general, we have, I used to name it, I take this from another person, I don't remember his name. There's the code, it has a smell. So according to the smell of the code, you are able to find if it's good or not. And now my question for John, you are moving from, during our discussion, you moved from the rules to the soft skills. When I talk about integrity, when I talk about curiosity, all of this. Now, the soft skills is something that most of us is not reading. When we have a job posting, for example, we are unable to read a lot of all the soft skills required. And even if it's there, you can find it as a sentence at the end. And maybe who will interview the person, he don't have the same soft skills, so he's unable to evaluate it. So what is the most important soft skill for the data scientist or for AI team, let's say, or analytics?
Yeah, it's as we talked about yesterday in our prep call, I'm consulting with universities around the United States, University of Michigan, Oklahoma State, and University of Texas, and a few others as well. And when I look at their curriculum, the one area that I find that they're all deficient in my first review is communication skills. They all are missing the written and verbal and presentation skills that we all require as data science professionals. As I said, in my team, there are artisanal data scientists. So when I first hire people, I let them know, I'm not going to sit next to you when you're in a meeting with an executive vice president. You're on your own. So, when you go to meet with a C-level executive or an executive vice president or senior vice president, you are going to have to explain what you're doing in language that they understand. So in my opinion, those are the most important soft skills. The rest of it, you can learn as you go, but the communication skills are important from the minute you start the job.
Thom, do we have something to add here? I think you have something to add, I'm sure.
Yeah, I really like what John said. And by the way, the reason I was able to write such a good review on John's book, Building Analytics Teams, is because I made every mistake he listed in that book. And we call it stepping in it here in the US, meaning we have a lot of cows in the US. And if we go out and walk in the fields, we might step in something the cows left behind for us. So I feel a lot of that. But what John said is correct. It's the end point we want to achieve, but how do you get there? You're on the job and you want to get there. And I look back and I think, what stupid thing did you do, Thom Ives, that kept you from getting to these great points that John's making in his book? And even though I counted myself as a very caring individual, it struck me, you didn't care enough about the business. You were thinking about being in it for yourself. You were forgetting that your efforts affect this whole team. Shame on you, Thom. Get out there and care about the business, care about helping everyone perform better, build tools that help them do better. Find out from the business leaders, what's your biggest concern? What thing is hurting the most that I can find a solution for? Now I try to operate that way, and I'm still learning to operate better that way. But at least with that, as my North Star, as my guiding principle, I feel so much more excited to arrive and think, I'm solving a problem for Nate. I'm solving a problem for Alec today. It's exciting to go at it that way, and you find you end up designing better tools when you
It's
have
true.
that spirit.
It's absolutely true. We went through an exercise, I guess about a year ago now. We had two big presentations coming up. One was for a senior vice president, one was for an executive vice president. It was two different data scientists doing it. So I said, okay, I'm going to ask, you guys to go off and build your presentations and then come back and give it to the data science group so we can see what you're thinking about talking about. And I had a plan. I had a feeling what was going on. So, they came back and they did the presentations and they were really nice and very, concise and complete. And then at the end, I asked them, I said, who was that presentation for? And they said, it was for me. It was for them to prove how smart they were. It didn't have any business terminology. It had no return on investment. It had nothing about improving the business. And I said, okay, now that you've got that out of your system, now you can go build a presentation for your real client. And they went back and they did, and they were beautiful presentations. And both executives called me up afterwards and said, amazing. I've never seen, someone from the technical side of the business come through with such a clear, concise, impactful presentation that I resonated with. So it was, it worked out really well. And everybody on the team now knows if you've got to get that out of your system, do it. Go ahead. We're happy to sit there and listen to you and clap and tell you, you're brilliant, you're awesome, you're fantastic, you know how to do a neural network better than anyone. But don't do that to a business executive.
I got to add, Ghaith, even in my defense for my dissertation, my advisor, my committee head had to tell me, Thom, we don't want to see any bond graphs, differential equations, models. What? I was shocked. Best advice I ever received. And even after that, I still had to learn to speak to my business and marketing counterparts. And I think about what John was saying. What causes us to do that? I think it's because it's hard to get over those feelings of, I got to prove how smart I am. No, you don't. You have a solution. Present what the solution will do. Don't explain to people how it works. When you sell cars, do you teach people principles of internal combustion? No. Just
Okay.
yeah, it's hard.
I will add one point. I will ask one question. This is correct when you are selling cars, but when you are trying to hire a driver, I think it's important to show how much he is intelligent. So again, I will back to that. Let's say all of this is great, and I cannot agree more. Really, when you have good communication skills and you are able to identify your audience when you are making presentation and give them the presentation from their point of view in simplified way but accurate way at the same time, this is something great for the project. But when we are dealing with hiring process and then we are judging, and this is the bad word that Thom he don't like, judging the person himself. So the communication skills still play a main role here, but again, he is, sorry to say, that he is the stuff. He is the something that we are going to sell. Is the person himself. So here, what we are able to tell, let's say, the candidates in this rule. For example, when you have a rule, I'm sure that you can find that the post is talking about the data scientist, but the requirement, it will be for the full package of the data science tools. So what the candidate has to show on kind of, let's say, interview. This is the first point. And what is the hiring manager has to test really on this interview? This is the last question, and then I will open the question for the people. This is two questions. What the candidates have to show and what the hiring manager has to test.
The way we do it, the way we've come to it over the last couple of years at CSL is that a candidate has to go through, and this is unfortunate to say because I think everybody on the call will now shake their head and be slightly depressed, is that we go through 7 interviews. They start out with HR, and then they end up with the data science team, and they will go through a series of 4 interviews with the data science team. Most of them are team interviews. They are technically oriented. You go through a test on Python, you go through a test on R, you go through a test on SQL, you go through a test on algorithms and data approaches and things like that. Then you'll end up with another HR person doing a behavioral interview, and then you'll end up doing an interview with me. And what we're looking for there is technical capability, and we're also looking for communication skills, flexibility, teamwork, collaboration, and just so everybody understands and knows, in some cases I will reschedule an interview 4 times, and I'm not trying to be a jerk. What I'm trying to find out is, can you handle a changing environment, a stressful changing environment? And I've had people call me up after the 3rd change and just berate me, call me all sorts of names and tell me I'm this and that, and I'm like, okay, well, fine, now you've shown yourself and we don't want to interview any further, and you're not going to get an offer from this organization. You have to understand that the environment you're coming into is multifaceted. So we need to understand that, number one, you're, as I said, curious, smart, collaborative, ethical, honest, all those kind of things. So we're trying to figure out who you are from multiple perspectives. Do you have the technical chops? Do you have the attitude and the temperament that we want on our team? And then that's what we're trying to figure out about the candidate. The second question was, what do we need to show someone? Is that what you were asking, Ray? What was the second part of the question?
The second part of the question is the hiring manager, let's say the HR. You mentioned already that you have all of these tips for the interview. But at the end, what is the most important part that will play main role on the decision that we are going to hire this candidate from the, let's say, not the candidate point of view, from the company?
Well, from the company perspective, I'm putting my reputation on the line by saying this is the right person to hire. So that's my role in the process, is to manage it, make sure that all those meetings happen in the right time and the right cadence. The HR's role is pretty simple. Their role is to do the work of generating the offer, doing all the compliance paperwork, making sure it's all filed, the background checks are done, the drug tests are done. It's a pretty simple mechanistic process from their perspective. But from my perspective, I'm standing up in front of the organization and saying, this is the right person to hire. So the candidate needs to show up and put their best foot forward. We need to evaluate them in a multifaceted way. I need to represent it's the right hire for the organization. And HR needs to do the mechanistic work of getting all the paperwork processed.
Thom?
Well, right now I'm in a sole data science artisan role, and I love it. But it can make me feel a little lonely sometimes. So LinkedIn is, my LinkedIn community and friends are key there, but there's a good pool of data scientists within UL to collaborate with mentally when I need that, or they need something from me. We share with each other a lot. But I think I want to speak directly to anyone in the audience that's looking for a job. And I think John's process is stellar, by the way. I wouldn't say anything negative about what he just said, but it's sure as hell for a candidate to go through. And if you get interview anxiety, I know I certainly get technical interview anxiety. I remember one of my PhD qualifying exams. I got anxiety and failed a very simple question. Went back and passed it the second time. No big deal. Happens a lot. But I remember some very simple technical interviews that I failed just because I was on the spot and wasn't thinking clearly. So I would ask y'all, if you've been through some interviews, don't judge yourself from that. All of you are brilliant. Just treat it as, oh, that highlighted something I've got to work on. But I would say this, we are on track to have me build a team as soon as possible as the needs increase for the data science arts we're trying to add to our business. And I would give a chance to someone whose English or presentation skills weren't that great. I would just want to really have a good process to discern, I'm going to need to work with you a lot on your presentation skills. Are you going to be humble enough to take that feedback and the hard work I'm going to give you to develop those skills? Yes, and I just, you got to do your best job to discern that. But the other thing is to make sure they're going to follow through, that they can. I'm always trying to be gentle because I remember how hard it was to take harsh feedback and benefit from it. But just do your best to mentor and develop people, because there's some real gems out there. Maybe their English isn't that great yet, their presentation skills aren't that great, and they develop the wrong presentation for the wrong reasons, like John and I were highlighting. So I hope that helps. I would still be looking mostly for technical skills, but I would tell this person, I might present for you for a while, but you've got to learn to present for yourself. And I will make sure you get the credit for the work, but I'm going to present your findings. Is that okay? Yes. And you're going to be in that meeting watching me so that you develop. But yeah, I think sometimes we need to go about it that way.
Yeah,
Okay.
we just hired an external firm to come in and do presentation training with all our data scientists. We included the interns that are still an undergraduate. We included all the data scientists, and everybody got their own presentation. They got a topic from the coach. They built their presentations and gave those presentations, and everybody improved. So,
that's awesome.
That's incumbent on us to give the people the skills they require.
Nice.
Okay, I cannot add any more. In fact, this is great question. And great answer, sorry, not a great question. It's my question.
Those are great
good questions. Good questions.
There is one thing, maybe only, because I found this, it was happened with the physicians, with the doctors previously, say when I was young, they was very proud people because they are very smart. And then it comes to the software engineers or who's programmers at that time, and they are start to be very proud because they are very smart. And right now, it's the time for the data scientists. They are maybe the smartest people right now in our field, let's say. So according to that, the proud level, it's become very high. And most of the time, they are judging the hiring process from their point of view. And this is maybe how they are lose the real chances that they are deserving. So this is something that let's say this is my advice for myself, because I'm still on the same processes, and for my colleagues. And I'm sure all of them, they are great, but yes, you have to understand who you are presenting yourself to, and try to speak his mouth, to speak with his language. This is my advice. And right now I will open. One thing I have to mention, on YouTube, I'm unable to receive questions. Sorry for that. Somebody comment there. We are open here on Zoom. If anybody has question, please unmute yourself and share us your ideas. Hello. No questions. That's great.
Oh no, there's.
Here we go.
When mentoring. Yes, Giovanni, please unmute yourself and ask, please. Not sure.
You want to go first there, John, on that?
The skills about mentoring?
Yeah.
Yes, when mentoring trainees, interns, what type of skills do you think is most important to improve in them? Coding, analytics, presentation, or algorithms? This is the question.
Yeah, we are very interested in trying to help the next generation of data scientists move through their undergraduate, graduate programs and into the working world. So we bring in. We had 6 interns this last summer, and the feedback that we got from all those 6 interns was that what they found the most challenging was actually accessing data in the wild. In the educational environment, there's a nice little clean data object sitting there on a drive waiting for them to pick it up. But in the world, it's not that easy. Sometimes you got to talk to people who don't know what they're supposed to give you, and they give you the wrong thing, and you got to go back and forth. So data wrangling is a very important element to teach people that in the real world, it's not as simple as it looks like it in the textbooks. Algorithmically, usually what we look for is someone who's an expert. Someone might be an expert in trees or nets or NLP or something like that. So we usually try to find someone who's deep in an area, and we try to help them even go deeper in that area. But we also open them up to say, hey, if you're a text mining or an NLP expert and you want to learn about some other techniques, we'll put you on some other projects so you can work with other experts to broaden your skills base. So access to data, algorithmic breadth, and then communication skills. That's usually what we work on. And that's about all we can work on in an internship as well. I know that Gia had a question that came up and went away. So I don't know if Ghaith, you can read those out if you can see them. They seem to go by faster than I can catch them. You're muted, Ghaith.
You're muted, Ghaith.
Sorry, because my daughter comes here and she starts talking to me.
I see. I'll just turn on the chat window. That's my fault. All right, I got him. All
okay.
Right, so
Thom, do you have Thom first? Sorry, John.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Do you have anything to add on this question, or should we move?
No, it's a quick thing. And every time someone approaches me for mentorship, my first question to them is, are you good at coding yet? What's your primary language? And even had one guy that was reaching out to me that said, Thom, I don't like coding. Is there something in data science I can do without coding? And I said, yes, get really good at Tableau, Power BI, all of those things. But I wondered if I did him a disservice because, yeah, but how are you going to clean that data? One of my friends is Susan Walsh, the data guru, the classification guru.
Yeah.
A lot of good posts on LinkedIn. She doesn't code, I don't think, but she uses the front end tools like Excel and other tools like that, like a whiz kid. So it is possible, but if you really want to be a hardcore data scientist, you've got to get good at coding. I mean, that's the foundation to what John was just getting at. And I actually cringe to think, oh, you want to learn data munging outside of the job. That's really hard to do. But frankly, the scikit-learn sets, the data's pretty clean, but not perfect. Just going through all of those, I think, is a good initial practice.
Yeah,
but yeah, there's one other skill I love that I've developed, and I've learned it from other great data scientists too, is fake data creation. I love to create fake data because then I can create the hard endpoints myself to test my algorithms before I put them into production to say, yeah, it'll handle that. Now, does it always work? No. I still find things in production that will crash my code, but it's great to learn to create fake data.
That is true. Absolutely true. So I agree 100%, Thom.
Thank you.
So one question for John. During the question from Jia Wu, I hope I mentioned the name correctly. John, during the technical interviews in your company, do you allow candidates to use Google?
No.
Okay. Your answer. Okay. Okay. And if he use it without, this is my question right now, if he use it without your awareness about this, so is it a problem for you?
Okay. We let people know exactly what we expect of them in the interview process, and we tell them that we want them to answer the questions as from their knowledge base, not from Google. So with that caveat, if they decide to use Google, then that's a contravention of the rules that we put forward. So the interview process is pretty much over.
Okay. Daniel, our friend on LinkedIn, he is a great person. Do you mind telling us about how to sell a data science project to the C-level executive? Could you share any experience about it? I think the question is for both John and Thom.
Yeah, Thom, you want to start that one?
I will. It really comes back to something John and I were head nodding together about earlier. If you prove to that C-level executive that you care about the business and you understand what the business needs are, showing how your solution's going to meet each of those needs will sell them.
It's true. It is true. Usually what has happened in my experience is that if it's a C-level executive, they want to talk to someone like me. I have a title. They like that kind of stuff. So I show up and I ask them, as Thom said earlier, what are you struggling with? What's the problem? What's the challenge? What do you really want to get to? And in CSL, it could be they want to have more donors come through the door for plasma donation, or they want to understand how many patients are out there as a true population of the people with the rare disease. So then I explain to them, I almost parrot back to them what they said. So I say, what I heard you say is, and they say, yes, that's exactly what I want. And then I go back and I work with the data scientists and I say, look, we need to build a model to predict how many people in the world have this rare disease. And it's as simple as that. So when you come back and say to them, you thought that there were, I'll just make numbers up. You thought there were 10,000 people that had this condition. It's actually more like 150,000 people. And in a business that treats rare disease, some of those therapies cost $5,000 a month. So if you take 150,000 times $5,000 a month for the lifetime of a normal human, that's a pretty big number.
Another question from Muhammad. For undergrad students, how to get practical experience and get a kickstart into data science? And what kind of skills are really important?
I'll echo what Thom said earlier. I have a lot of people come to me and say, I want to be a data scientist. What should I be doing? And I say, KU competitions, go out there and get a hold of some data, mess around with it, find some things, find a not-for-profit that's trying to understand their business a little bit better, their donation base their donor base a little bit better. Just try to find things that have data in it that you can work with. And I've had a number of people come back to me later and say, I went and tried that and I hate it. I don't really want to be a data scientist. I thought I did from all I read, but I don't want to. So, trying it, there's no substitute for trying to be a data scientist. And then, as Thom has been saying all the way through the conversation, you have to get comfortable with the fact that you are going to be working with data and you are going to have to munge that data and you're going to have to code. And if you don't like data and you don't like code, I can bet you're not going to want to be a data scientist.
That's right. I want to echo what John said, but also point people to my post on my blog that talks about developing your own personalized learning plan. I've added to that post over time. There's a host of reasons you need to be the master of your own plan. And just if you go to Integrated Machine Learning and AI, find that post. We're getting a lot of good feedback that post was helpful. But yeah, it's great to try it. Like John said, then you'll know if you really want to be one.
Okay. Gia, she posed a long question. So please, because I'm not that much good reader, so can you
read
help
it
me?
too? Yes. I'll lead with this one. I'll just jump in real quick. Gia, it's ugly on both sides. I have looked through 200.
I think we lose Thom right now.
Thom froze a little bit there.
Okay. Gia, would you help us and unmute yourself, read your question?
Helping hire.
Thom, you froze.
I froze. Okay. I thought everyone else froze. I'll start again.
Okay.
Gia, it's an imperfect process. I've looked through stacks of resumes before, just amazed at the talent of the people I was looking at. It's very difficult on both sides, and I never judge anymore now that I've been on both sides of the fence. I don't judge when recruiters don't get back to me, when they thought I was a unicorn and I never hear back from them again. All of it's happened to me. You've got to stay steady. Understand too, with all the hype that's around this field, I'm glad the hype's there, because something I've loved to do for over 30 years is now popular. But now that it's popular, the competition is increased. So the old posts you read that it's easy to get a job in it, they're no longer correct, just because there's so many people flooding the field for the hope of greater money and more challenging work, mentally inspiring work. So if you're true to staying into it, what John has already said is real key, but also just keep trying. one of the most inspirational stories I read. I may get some of the details wrong here, but this guy was so committed to becoming a data scientist that he was an Uber driver by day and a data science self-learner by night. And a year or two later, he finally landed a job and he was growing rapidly in that role because now he's full-time data science. And I found it one of the most inspirational stories I'd ever read, that he just stuck with it.
Another thing to keep in mind, Gia, is all the things that Thom said are true. What has happened in the marketplace is there are so many people that want to be a data scientist, and there's so many companies that want to have data scientists. People have gotten down to a point of defining a very small role, a very small area that you can fit into. So, I used to feel bad when I'd be going for jobs and I wouldn't get the job. And then, I ended up talking to enough of the people at the places where I did not get the job to understand that the aperture is narrowing tightly. So, you may have been the perfect candidate, except for you had 2.5 years of experience and the other person had 4. And, they're going to go with that person. Or, maybe you wouldn't relocate and the other person would. Or, there's it's the width of a hair is the difference between who you pick now, because Thom's absolutely right. The amount of talent that's out there is incredible. And the last time we hired someone 20 months ago, the difference between the first and the second, third, fourth, and fifth candidates was negligible.
I think it's we have the last question here from Rob Chow. Hello. I just graduated from electrical engineering. And all my programming skills, Python, MATLAB, Octave, and R, comes from the research perspective. I took part of one research group in university about AI. So what should I focus right now? Is a master's degree a big deal, or should I try a master's degree in that area? This is his question. I
Thom,
think
you want to go?
before John, sorry for that. I will answer first.
Oh, please.
I will answer not full answer for sure. I give, let's say, a kind of advice. A master degree is something great, and it's not a big deal. You are able to go there, but I think for me, I'm unable to give you an advice. I'm able to give you let's say, a direction. So what you are able to do, let's say, skills you are able to work on it. Yes, maybe this is I'm able to do, but to make a decision on master degree, this is my point of view. On are you able to go to a master degree or not? This is your decision. This is your life, man. So this is my first intuition about this. And right now, sorry, this is the only thing, because I spent 10 years thinking about the master degree and then I didn't make it for myself. So that's why it's your life. It's not John. Sorry for that. You are able to.
Go ahead, Thom. Take the first cut at it.
Yeah, as Dr. Ives, I'll chime in here because I went really far, obviously, but it wasn't specifically in data science. Even my stated degree for my PhD is not very accurate. I like to call myself a PhD in multi-physics engineering, but that's not what it says on my diploma. And the point being, though, is I don't think you can make a wrong decision. Now, one nice thing about having a master's, I'll say, is that it's clout. It's not easy to get through a master's program. And so it already gives you instant credibility when you're looking for a job. But at the same time, if I were reviewing candidates, I'd go the extra mile to look, do they have a GitHub profile? Do they post regularly on LinkedIn? Do they post on blogs? Do they have a YouTube channel for data science? These things, to me, and the quality of those materials would be gigantic differentiators. Would I pick if my company would let me, I would pick a non-degreed person that was doing all those things over a PhD. Let me echo that again. I'm a PhD, but I would choose someone that proved to me they could code complicated stuff very cleanly and was giving back to the community over a PhD with no publications, et cetera, et cetera. And because of my career, I'm shooting myself here because I have very few publications because of the post work I did following my degree plan. I think it's now, however, would all employers behave like me in the hiring process? I can't say that. It's easy. It's an easy litmus test. It's an easy test to say, well, this candidate is worthy of good consideration. They're low risk because they got a master's.
Yep. I echo everything that was said by both Ghaith and Thom. I have a master's degree, so I did that. I did it at night in the first couple of years or 3 or 4 years after I was at an undergraduate school. But Thom's right. I tend to look at what someone is doing now, and are they posting? Do they have a GitHub? Are they up to date on the newest and latest and greatest algorithmic innovations? So yeah, someone with a master's degree or someone with an undergraduate or someone with a PhD, we look at them all differently. But there are other extenuating circumstances that are probably more relevant in the hiring process than what degree you have.
Chow, you can unmute yourself. He asked to unmute himself.
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes, because I just graduated. It's been a month since I graduated. And a lot of people are asking me if I'm going to take the master's degree career or the researcher career. And then since this month has been passing, I've been doing a lot of research in the field of AI, and I'm getting really, really interested. So that's why the question.
So one thing I'll advise, that when people reach out to me for advice, they sometimes ask me life decision advice and say, I cannot take the deep responsibility of helping you make a life choice decision. But what I will teach you to do is how to use a decision matrix. And it's one of the many good tools, but it's a very powerful tool to help you make decisions. There's so many good posts out there and articles out there on how to create one. I walked through one today with one of my blog authors. What's important is for you to figure out what's important to you about the decision. What aspects are important? Let's use this data science language. What features are most important in this decision? And what options are you evaluating? A decision matrix is that adage of plans are worthless, but planning is indispensable. Going through the decision matrix will help you achieve optimal clarity on what's most important to you about this decision and help you to make a very informed decision. A lot of times people, though, will labor over two paths that are both very good. There's not a bad decision. It's really more a question about passion. I will say, try not to choose just based on more money, but more money can be important too.
It's true.
Okay, that's it. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, ciao.
Now, the last question, I hope it's the last question, from Dogan. Hello, first of all, thank you very much for this event. We are collecting a huge information data from machine at manufacturing facility and monitoring, but we really don't know how to use them. Could you please advise which engineer need to be hired? Data scientist, software engineer, machine learning engineer, whatever.
That is a John question for sure.
Sure.
Yeah, it's a good question. It's interesting. We did a project when we were at Dell where we instrumented a pit crew, a NASCAR pit crew. So we instrumented all the people. We took measurements of the wheel when they took the wheels off, how fast they put the gas in, all this other kind of stuff. What we really needed after we collected all that information was an analyst. You can call him a data scientist, but that person had to do the data integration and cleaning first, and then immediately go into the analysis. So I would say that you need to hire a data scientist, but someone that understands that a significant amount of their work, as we've all been saying throughout this conversation, is around data.
mainly I was going to ask him, you need the business analyst first, that you can find what's your need exactly, and then he will determine what kind of data scientist you will need.
You can
Okay,
do
for
that
sure,
later.
John, your answer is the best, but this is what comes to my mind first, because the problem itself, it's not clear for me. Okay, data from machine, that's all. So, okay, I think this is the last question. Gentlemen, anything you want to add? It's up to you for the last
I, I
statement.
want to echo something that John was just saying. We've said it over and over, but it can't be overstated. I remember seeing a picture of a woman standing behind an elephant collecting you know what as it came out so she wouldn't have to shovel it off the ground to put it into the bag to carry it away. You know, when data science was called the sexiest job of the 21st century, I think, not if you don't like munging data. A little bit of it's like standing behind that elephant. The data must flow, but it's got to be cleaned and processed a lot too. So I do advise people. I say, look, if you don't like hours of learning code and coding better and thinking about the deep concepts of algorithms and occasionally jumping in to know how to code something from scratch without a library, you probably want to go look for another field.
Yeah. You want one thing that I'll add to the conversation is that it's very important to understand, and Ray, your comment just jogged something in my mind, is that we as data scientists, at least in my team, we never take on a project unless we're married up with a subject matter expert. We understand the math, we understand the data, we understand, all that kind of stuff, but we're not, at least at CSL, we're not, pharmaceutical executives or, supply chain executives or R&D executives. So, we have to be married up with a business analyst or a subject matter expert or something like that, so we can do good work for our clients in the company. So that kind of colors what I said earlier, because I just assume you always have a subject matter expert somewhere in the business because you are running a business and you're bringing a data scientist to bear on it because you want to understand it from a math and a data perspective. So I see the two as being, working hand in hand.
Okay. Thank you, gentlemen, for this nice session. I'm really sharing LinkedIn. Okay. Would you guys mind sharing LinkedIn or GitHub? Thank you for updating regularly and inside the project. Okay. I think I have your LinkedIn account and I have all the registered emails. It will come to me. So do you mind? I will share your profile to everybody.
Please do.
Thank you. Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Okay. Daniel, thanks all of us. And thank you, John. Thank you, Thom, for this great session. I really enjoy it. I enjoy the discussion. And in fact, more and more, I'm more convinced that I don't need presentation when you have great discussion. So yes, really, the presentation is something we can prepare it for the C-level. That's what we're talking about. But when we are trying to discuss in our community, it's better to express our ideas live. This is what I think. Thank you once again. And I just want to announce one thing. On 19th, next Saturday, I have a session. This one, it will be a learning with Giuseppe Bonacorso about reinforcement learning. Also, all of us invited to attend this. And see you soon. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it.